What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the channel. In today's video, we have the third installment of our New England Patriots franchise here on Madden 23. And we're going to be getting into the offseason where we really want to be, where we live for this type of a franchise. The first thing that I want to go over today is where we stand with the Super Bowl. Believe it or not, the Cincinnati Bengals and the Dallas Cowboys are going to be competing in this year's Super Bowl. So when we open up the playoff bracket, we can kind of see how things played out. The Chargers beat the Buffalo Bills in the first round. The Baltimore Ravens fell to the Cincinnati Bengals. Somehow the Pittsburgh Steelers made it into the playoffs and lost to the Indianapolis Colts, which set up a pretty easy matchup, all things considered, where the Bengals could blow out the Colts 49-13. The Kansas City Chiefs handled business against the Chargers 35-14, and we ended up with two somewhat likely candidates here in the AFC Championship game, with Joe Burrow leading his team over Patty Mahomes and taking his team to back-to-back Super Bowls. On the NFC side of things, we had the Cowboys facing off against their rivals, the Philadelphia Eagles, and winning by one score. The Minnesota Vikings made it in and beat the Green Bay Packers by one touchdown in a low-scoring affair, and the San Francisco 49ers were able to knock off Tom Brady, setting up a second-round matchup here between the 49ers and the Panthers, the Cowboys and the Vikings, and we know here that the 49ers were able to take care of business and the Cowboys were able to take care of business. It's actually pretty interesting that the Panthers had the 1 seed on the NFC side, which is a total polar opposite to what it is in real life. All things considered, that's pretty interesting if you ask me. And then the Cowboys were able to defeat the 49ers in the most unlikely series of events. The Cowboys getting 3 straight playoff wins. I know, it's nuts. But anyway, that sets up the Cowboys for the Super Bowl against the Cincinnati Bengals. And if I had to make my pick right now, I would say the Cincinnati Bengals are going to take this one and run with it. Next, we just need to talk about our Pro Bowlers. We really did not have a whole lot of players entered into the Pro Bowl this year for us. Surprisingly enough, players that did play really well for us, even like Bailey Zappe, top 3 in the league in passing yards, was not on the Pro Bowl roster. Who was on the Pro Bowl roster? Center Frank Ragnow and fullback Patrick Ricard. Those were our Pro Bowl entrants for this team this year, so not really much to talk about in that regard. And finally, what I wanted to show you is the yearly award winners and runner-ups. Well, mainly, I just wanted to show you one of them, and that was Mac Jones over for the Atlanta Falcons, somehow finishing as the runner-up for the NFL MVP award. Yeah, we traded him to the Atlanta Falcons, and it seems like this was a win-win scenario. He took the Atlanta Falcons to a pretty positive record, all things considered, with how rough that team kind of figures out to be on paper. 8-9 record, and this guy's stats were pretty crazy. He ended the season with 4,900 passing yards, 46 touchdowns to only 11 interceptions, and a 109.1 passer rating. On top of that, he was able to earn himself Superstar with that performance. So, I'd just like to say, even though we were playing this unrealistic and Mac Jones isn't going to get traded and the Falcons might not even want to trade for a quarterback, I'd say it worked out pretty well for both sides, all things considered. Our end might yet to be seen. They finished at 8-9. They probably want to have a better finish to the season there, but they have some roster building to do. And really, I really like where we stand, because our team, if we left it as it was, would be facing a ton of regression right now with a lot of those older players, and we'd be faced with a lot more question marks heading into this offseason than we currently are. In fact, I would argue that it's very good, especially compared to the rest of the league. So we have a pretty solid offense all the way around. I mean, the only thing that I'm really looking to do here is maybe move Devontae Parker. I don't really know, though. There's not a whole lot extra that I want to do. On the defensive side of the ball, we are just missing a few key players in a few key positions. Like I said, linebacker is something we want to address, and secondary is something that we want to address. So we are kind of in a shell of a team here on the defensive side of the ball. A couple things to address as we head into the offseason. but honestly, we are in a much better position than we would have been with the Patriots if we left all of those older players on the roster, and we were facing regression with all of them right now without a whole lot of option to fix this team, not a whole lot of draft picks or anything like that. We've really set ourselves up for a nice offseason. I did want to show you guys real quick the regular season schedule for the Falcons so you could see that I didn't force any wins or anything like that to get that result. That legitimately happened on the simulation. I think it's pretty interesting that Mac Jones went over there and was runner-up to MVP. And we might as well force advance this live so you guys can see what the result actually pops up for from that Super Bowl. I'm pretty curious to see. Like I said, I'm taking the Cincinnati Bengals, and it was a close one, 27-24. We can actually see there that the Bengals came away with the win by just a field goal. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into the offseason and see how we can fill these gaps on the roster and get simulating into the next season. And so, one rather uneventful free agency later, we did add a couple of key contributors to the roster. Or I don't know that I would say key contributors, but players that will serve roles within this system. And we were able to add quarterback Tyler Huntley. I don't know that he's ever going to see the field for this team, but a player that I like quite a bit. And if our other quarterback options fail, I think Tyler Huntley could become a very nice utilization player that can do a lot of different things in the correct system. So at the very least, we might be able to build him up and trade him away to another team. We also took this time to revamp our running back room a little bit, and we were able to bring in Isaiah Pacheco, who is that Kansas City Chiefs running back that has a ton of upside. And I think the plan here is for him to take over. And as we go through here, you might see some of our draft picks. We'll get to those in a moment. But Pacheco, I think I want to have take over the running back room, especially when Leonard Fournette's contract is up. But we'll see what happens. We now have a pretty lengthy, pretty deep running back room that I'm kind of excited about to see if in the sim they're able to accomplish anything. One move we were able to make was a veteran move, which is, I know, a little bit unusual for what we're doing here, but we were able to bring in Grady Jarrett from the Atlanta Falcons. This is a veteran move to solidify the D-line. Whenever I was going through the entire offseason process, I realized that we were just going to need some help on the defensive line, and I think Grady Jarrett is a player that could get some more out of his career. He has quite a bit more left in the tank if utilized right, and I think he will do just that in our 3-4 system. He should be able to get pressure. He should be able to stuff the run. He's a very good player and just what we need on the interior of our defensive line next to Christian Barmore. And there were a couple more, what I would call actually key additions to the team, and that would be strong safety Ronnie Harrison Jr., who for the time being we are going to move to the middle linebacker role just to help cover some of the holes in this defense. A player that I think could be very successful for us, still only 26 years old, a big hitter, and I think that he really fits into what I'm trying to do with this defense. He may or may not develop, but I am curious to see how this one might play out in the simulation. And then with the turnover in the secondary, we did kind of have to bring somebody in. We weren't going to be able to draft an entire secondary. So we managed to get Greedy Williams, who is a lanky player, 6'2", has athleticism, still somewhat young, that I think we can develop as our 2, maybe even our 3 in this system. I really like this pickup. This is probably one of my favorite pickups, and that's not just because he's an LSU player, but because I think that we could get more out of him. I think Bill Belichick will know how to utilize him correctly, which the Browns have not been able to really do. And finally, we brought in a kicker to replace our aging veteran, and we were able to bring in Chris Blewett. This is a kicker that, you know, just based on name alone, I feel like kind of fits what the Patriots do. I think that if anybody is going to get anything out of a kicker that is named Blewett, it would be the New England Patriots. So, you know, I find that fitting. Maybe you guys don't, but nonetheless, that was our last free agency pickup. Let's go ahead and recap the draft. And we were picking mainly between round 1 and 5, really between round 1 and 3. And this is where we were looking to fill major holes on the team. We were able to get the middle linebacker that we really wanted, Noah Sewell out of Oregon, 77 overall he's coming in at, going to be a stud at middle linebacker for us. And then we were able to get defensive defensive end, edge, outside linebacker player Zach Strong. He's coming out of West Virginia. He's more of a power rusher, but that's what I like to have to complement Sweat on the opposite side. So I think that this will help generate more pass rush for us and really get things going on the defensive side of the ball. Only 21 years old and two really good picks at pick 15 and pick 16. We came to pick 30, and I was looking at other positions that we needed. We certainly didn't need wide receiver, but Keyshawn Bouts, or Boots, or Booty, I don't know how to say his name, to be honest, and I should because he's an LSU player, was sitting here, and I was like, I know that he's a good wide receiver. I know that he's going to be one of the top receivers in this draft class as projected right now, so let me go ahead and draft him. I mean, we are trying to replace Devontae Parker. This does crowd our receiving room, but it's kind of a best pick available at this point, and we really hit gold with this one. He is a 20-year-old, 78 overall receiver, our highest overall drafted player, one of the highest overall in the draft class, and I think he might have superstar. He's hidden dev, it might be star, it might be superstar, but nonetheless, he's going to be a really good stud that's going to take over in short order in our receiving room. In the second round, we turned our eyes to players that could help us on the defensive side of the ball again. We turned to Joey Porter Jr., who is going to be forced to come in and start right away, but more so in a slot role or a number 2 role, so I do like this pickup. He's not the best athlete in the world, but he does have that bloodline that we know NFL organizations really covet, and then we were able to also pick up Brandon Joseph, the strong safety out of Florida State, who came in at a 76 overall, so we really hit on our first 5 picks. All of these picks were absolutely fantastic, and then we really just start to get into some depth players here and some interesting pickups. We were able to get outside linebacker Max Pearson. Not a whole lot to talk about with him, just more outside linebacker edge type depth. He is a speed rusher type of a player. We were able to pick up a little bit more depth on the defensive line with back-to-back picks here in the third round. Not back-to-back, but back-to-back for us, I should say. Cooper Boston, a generic defensive end out of Alabama, and then Paul Rudd, a defensive end out of Southern Miss. This guy's only a 65 overall, but he does come in with hidden dev, so that could be helpful to us in the long run with this team. He may develop into a starter or a very key contributor. And then we got to the 4th round, and I said, hey, we're just going to pick best available. Zach Charbonnet has been on here for way too long. Let's go ahead and pick the kid up out of UCLA, a very solid running back. And this, again, like our receiver room, kind of overcrowds the position, but nonetheless, I like having competition. Competition drives success. So we got another 73 overall running back that's only 21 years old. We then again targeted strong safety Jordan Tolles out of LSU, and we were able to pick up Parker Washington, who again was another player that was just sitting there, player that I didn't necessarily need, crowding the receiving room yet again, but a 69 overall in the 5th round with hidden development. Can't really go wrong with that. So we did really well in this draft. We did not address our positions of need as much as I would have liked to, but when we take a look at our lineup, we are actually set up with solid starters at every single position, or what I would call developmental players at every single position. So let's take a look at our adjust lineup screen, and on the offensive side of the ball, not much has changed here. We really are going to be sitting here with Bout as our number 3 receiver, which is crazy. Tyquan Thornton, Gunnar Olszewski, Scotty Miller, those guys in depth. Not much else to look at here. This is all exactly the way it has been. However, going to the defensive side of the ball, we now have been able to plug in every single position. So our safeties remain mostly the same. However, we were able to fill these linebacker spots that I was really looking to fill in. Noah Soul, Ronnie Harrison, and Strong are going to fill in 3 of those 4 spots, and I think they are going to do very well there as a group, developing together a bunch of young players. Joseph is going to be the backup at free safety and strong safety. Kyle Duggar is injured right now, but that gives us a lot of flexibility in the secondary. He could even potentially come down, or one of these guys could come down and play some cornerback if necessary. Jack Jones, Greedy Williams, and Joey Porter Jr. round out our top 3 corners, and I'm really excited about that. And then our defensive line is all filled right now, and we have a decent bit of serviceable, I would call, depth behind these guys. So really excited about this season. I think we're going to have a ton of success success, especially coming back off of that huge performance by Bailey Zappe last year. Now our team has a couple of superstar players. That's only going to make us better. I'm really excited about it. I hope you guys are as well. If you guys liked this offseason, if you liked this draft and this class of players that we brought in to fill the team, let me know down in the comment section. Leave a like on this video and subscribe and hit that bell notification button so that you are notified every time I upload a new video in this series. I'll see you guys in the next video. As always, I hope you have a good one.